Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Wind Wall.
It's a wall of wind. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
one of many wall spells of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the wall wizard characters that like walls. And druids and rangers, apparently. This is a 3rd level spell, concentration, cast time of an action, 120-foot range. For all thematic material components being, and I love this, a tiny fan and feather of exotic origin. Where could the feather be from? It just has to be exotic, and that can't be relative. It has to be exotic to you specific, or to the general scope, I guess. I don't know, maybe it is relative to you. Any case, a wall of strong wind rises from the ground at a point you choose that within range. You can make the wall 50 feet long, 15 feet high, 1 foot thick. So very thin. You can shape the wall in any way you choose, so long as it makes one continuous path. So you can be like a big old S shape or circle or cube or, chunk, zipping around, maze, whatever. It's only going to be 50 feet long, though. When the wall appears, each creature within the area makes a strength save. It takes 3d8 bludgeoning damage on a failed and half as much on a success. Neat. The strong wind keeps fog, smoke, and other gases at bay. Smaller flying creatures or objects can't pass through the wall. Loose, lightweight materials brought into the wall fly upward. Arrows, bolts, and other ordinary projectiles launched at targets behind the wall are deflected upward and automatically miss. Boulders hurled by giants and siege engines and similar projectiles are unaffected, which is cute. I like that they have that little text to be like, most projectiles little don't work, but boulders still hit you in the face. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Creatures in gaseous forms can't pass through it as well. This is 3rd level. But neat. I think conceptually I like this spell a lot. I don't think it's good enough in enough situations, but I'm super eager to take it on almost any character, though.
Yeah, it's really niche. I'm trying to imagine scenarios where you'd want to use this. I mean, if you got 27 guys shooting arrows at you, maybe, or a bunch of birds flying at you. I don't know.
The flight thing feels like almost a non-factor, right? 15 feet high is just not high enough for anything with a fly speed, right? Things
Yeah.
that have a 30-foot fly speed just go, okay, up, over, and that's it. That's all the wall did. Whereas, at least with projectiles, which I think is going to be the most common use case of this, is you're using it to deal damage to frontline creatures for quick use and then shut off from backline creatures from harrying you with arrows. That's where it's like, okay, this kind of makes sense. That's good in like a handful of battles a campaign, if that. Those are like front to back varieties of monster types. This is where you're looking at like not just a brigand group of like 8 goblins that are all having like a goblin boss stat block and all the 8 with their short bows and short sword stat block. Then we're looking at like there's the goblin frontline characters, the hobgoblin grunts, and then you have the backline battery of archers, and you got like these enemy party compositions where it starts to be like, okay, this could be a real spell against that specific group, because you still want the damage, right? You still care about it doing 3D damage to something, and hitting the frontline things is fine. Then everyone else can be like, okay, make sure you're standing close enough behind the wall that they can't shoot into us, and we can deal with the frontline characters, and then we can deal with backline characters. And that seems pretty good. The problem is, like, that's a very specific example. That is, this specific encounter will use Wind Wall well, and then almost no other encounters will, in any meaningful way, care about the spell.
All right. I was gonna say, I mean, the idea is that it's a 3rd level spell. With this encounter that you propose, it's up against Fireball, but this is a Druid and Ranger spell, not a Wizard Sorcerer. So
it literally isn't even on the. I just assumed because it was a wall, wizards were allowed to have it.
right,
My
it's not.
apologies. Wizards
No,
don't
no.
get this, which I think is actually. I don't want to say that's dumb, because I want wizards to have
Yeah,
all the walls, but at the same time, like, they get everything, so they don't need this.
Wizards, yeah. That, it is an odd selection though. For so they don't deny Wizards anything, and then Wind Wall,
Yeah.
whatever.
Wind is associated with nature, I guess, and that's enough. But like, so is fire, kind of.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. I don't know
not
what to tell
more
you.
than kind of. But yeah, whatever. So what is it competing against?
Main thing for druids is anything that says summon in it. So summon Fae, summon Beast. Those are where I start to look. On Ranger, the same kind of stuff. You've got Spike Growth, you've got a couple of other mid-tier options that are fine, but in all honesty, I think one of the worst spell lists for characters, like comparatively, is like 1st and 3rd level druid spells are not particularly great, and Rangers kind of fit into that bucket. You have like Conjure Animals, which is Bananas Broken, and if you don't want to do Bananas Broken things with Conjure Animals, which, like, I get it, it's a headache, and Giant Owls are stupid. You're then left with like Erupting Earth, which is not riveting. You're left with like Plant Growth, which I dearly love, but isn't necessarily it's not necessarily your like go-to want in combat. I think Summon Fae is your go-to one in combat. You're often going to want that to be where your concentration's at because it does a lot of things. Even something like Tidal Wave is perfectly fine-ish in some situations. This big AoE knockback thing that drags people with it. It's kind of cool. Most of what the druids are doing this level are summoning stuff, and rangers are like that but worse because they get it at 9th level.
Right,
So,
that's what I was going to bring up. The being half casters. That I mean, we're talking damage. Was it 3d8?
yeah, 3d8 is not a lot.
How's
You're
that
not doing
looking
this for the
at ninth
damage.
level? No,
Yeah.
but I mean, you said 9th level. You're getting this.
Mm-hmm.
Then are you that worried about small projectiles at that point?
The answer depends, but is usually less so, right? The small projectiles and like the humanoid bands encounters, right? Where you're fighting bandits, where you're fighting goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, that kind of stuff. Even like null groups and stuff. You're tending to face those in the lower tiers, and the upper tiers is where you get more exotic, larger sized stuff, or things that have like chain devils or ice devils, or bigger, scarier monsters that threaten you with magic stuff. Is typically how the game scales. So the projectiles get substantially worse in that tier. I think for druids, it's more of like okay, this is a thing I can prepare ahead of the encounter. For rangers, you'd have to know it, and then you know that you're going to likely be facing less and less of these as the game goes on, so it feels particularly egregious to them. So that's not great.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of trouble finding anything to really latch onto with this spell.
The other really big issue for rangers is it's not a one-way wall, so like you can't shoot through it either, which means if you're getting advantages from it, you're like a melee ranger, and then you've used it, you kind of like hit the one thing, and they reposition and stuff, and you get a couple little rounds out of that. Maybe that seems like a stretch and still not that exciting. Whereas like you could instead just have summon beasts. You could still have an extra companion running around helping you and attacking things and dealing with the backline creatures, or better stuff than this. I think like Dispel Magic, you take over this. Even something like Flame Arrows, I don't think is amazing, but it gives you a bunch of extra damage on hit, and that seems fine, right? Like you Flame Arrows the Ranger as a Druid, and the Ranger can do it too if they want to, and now all of a sudden you're at least doing an extra d6 damage on all your hits, and that's like Hex or Hunter's Mark. If you're the Druid doing it, it's a lot better for the Ranger because they can double dip into one of those two things, but like if you're the Ranger doing it, this is if we're talking about a bad 3rd level spell and saying it's probably better than this on average, I don't think Windwall is something you necessarily don't want in most encounters. Like I think you'd probably take utility stuff over this, right? You probably are taking your Plant Growths, your Revivifies, your Protection from Energy. Not Protection from Energy, but Sleet Storm I would probably take over this. I'm not a huge Sleet Storm proponent, but if you need to not get shot, giant obscuring area of Hail and Stone that also slows everyone down seems like it's going to be at least modally stop people from shooting you, and also as a giant, we need to bail, lock it down. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, for a wall spell, this doesn't do a lot of things I want a wall to do. It doesn't, obscure line of sight. It doesn't stop anyone from moving. It does. I mean, does it even do damage beyond the initial casting?
No.
No.
It's just when it appears.
Yeah, it's official. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think that's not to say you won't get ever any encounters where it won't be good. Again, I think if you ever like the backline doesn't matter here. We can just deal and split the encounter in half. That can be really great. That can be backbreaking for some mid-scope encounters. I don't think there are a lot of boss encounters that are like, yes, these, the Lich and his battery of skeletal archers, they're not going to like be a realistic use case that you're going to always be fighting against. Like things like eye rays from beholders, or dragons and their fire breath and flying around. They're going to fly over this, no problem, because again, 15 feet is way too small for flying creatures to ever care about that text. So
And,
it's
I
just
mean, it's
like,
only small flying creatures.
yeah, regular flying creatures also can just be like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
People can just pick up large rocks, throw those. People can just fire the ballista at you. People can use flamethrowers and other magical things, right? Not to say flamethrowers are actually magical, but like in this sense they are. So I think the gas stuff is cute and even less important than the arrow stuff. The arrow stuff is not something I'm seeing
that existed
in most sessions. I would say probably less than half of the sessions I run that kind of backline, but I do run a decent chunk of them, right? It does not say that I don't have 2 or 3 characters firing off arrows. How many you need for this to be worth the cast is, over especially a lot of more powerful, consistent, better spells. I don't know. I don't really see it. I think it's a 2.
Ooh, that's generous.
It's not that bad, Bob. 3D damage is fine, and then it denies all the backline shots, and that can be good, right? If it's like a mass banishment on 3 characters, it's excellent, but it's just not normally.
All right. I've given worse spells 2s before, so I'll agree with you. I guess in a few niche cases. Anyway, all right, if you have it, and if you were forced to take it somehow, you might find uses for it.
Yeah,
But,
if you get it for free, if a druid being prepared casters makes it a lot easier because you can say this.
Yeah.
I have the list I suppose I intend to cast, and then just some cool niche ones I think are lying around that are on my character for flavor reasons. This then will have some moments in the campaign. I'll be like, oh, hey, cool, does something neat, and that's not going to be like that's the use case of this spell. I think. I don't think this is something you're ever going. Thank God I hit 5th level and I'm now putting Wind Wall on my sheet.
No, I don't think so either. All right, straight 2s across the board. All right, I guess that was Windwall. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think about Windwall in the comments, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.